Well, now we come to card number 9, which is called rejection. It's the time when Jesus comes back to the place he grew up, the place where he was known as the carpenter, as the son of Joseph and Mary. And as our verse says, he went to Nazareth. That was after the woman at the well. He went to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And all the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. And we'll talk about what that means later. And they got up and they drove him out of town and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built in order to throw him off the cliff. And don't you love these words? But he walked through the crowd. What did he do with the people so that he could walk through the crowd? And he walked through the crowd and went on his way. So in Nazareth, he was rejected. You see, we are in Luke chapter 4, verse 13 and 14. And as I said, between these two verses, we've had the events recorded in John chapter 1, verse 19 through to chapter 4, verse 45. So Jesus back now in Nazareth, and it was his practice to attend the synagogue every Sabbath. And as Luke records, on this occasion he stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unscrolled it, and he deliberately found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and to recover sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who were oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." So every Jewish person would have known that this was a messianic passage. Now, Jesus in effect was saying that this is who I am. I'm the fulfillment of this passage. Now, I'm not sure that the implications of that statement had registered with the audience. This was Jesus the carpenter, the son of Mary and Joseph, and he had just said that he was the long-awaited Messiah. Well, it was obvious that the people were aware of the stories buzzing around about how Jesus had performed miracles, but they hadn't seen any of this. So Jesus says, I suppose you want me to perform a few miracles. That is what it means by the statement, "Physician, heal yourself." Do here in your hometown what we've heard that you've done down in Capernaum. Now keep in mind what John said about Jesus at the end of chapter 2, where he says, "But Jesus on his part did not entrust himself to them." Why? Because he knew all people, and he needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man. Or as John wrote in John chapter 1, verse 11, he came to his own, and his own did not recognize him. And remember, he now was in front of his own people here in his hometown. So rather than performing a miracle, Jesus tells them two stories recorded in their Bible. They were stories about two great prophets in the Bible, Elijah and Elisha. In 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 8 through to 16, it gives us the story of a non-Jewish widow living through a very severe drought. Now, God's prophet Elijah miraculously provided food for her for the duration of the drought. But why a Gentile widow? There were many Jewish widows that could have been helped. And then Jesus reinforces the point that he was making by reminding them that it was a Gentile leper called Naaman in 2 Kings 5, first 15 verses, that was healed of his leprosy. And he was the commander of chief of the armies that ravished the land of Israel. So God healed him. You see, there were many Jewish people with leprosy, but why did he choose a Gentile? Why this man? Now, Jesus knew that the people in his own hometown were not interested in God's Messiah as promised. They only wanted to see the healing circus show that everyone was talking about. Matthew says that a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not many mighty works there. Why? Because of their unbelief. And this same unbelief boiled over into rage in Jesus' hometown after teaching as he had taught in the synagogue. And when they heard these things, all in the synagogue were filled with wrath, and they rose up and they drove him out of the town, and they brought him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built, so that they might throw him down the cliff. But passing through their midst, he went away. And by passing through their midst, well, how did he do that? Well, Jesus leaves Nazareth and goes down to Capernaum, where we have the selection of the 12, which is our next card.
And we will get into that story in our next session. Hi, my name's Kalani and I'm a part of Australia's Walk Through the Bible family. I hope you are enjoying our walk through the New Testament. These cards have been a game changer in helping people learn the storyline of the Bible. The best way to learn is to teach others, so if you would like to buy a set of these cards, you can go to our website down below or scan the QR code on the screen. Also, to help prepare you for our next session, we will suggest the following Bible reading. Until next time, just remember our passion is to create a passion for God through His Word.